All right, welcome back to the Roast It Yourself podcast, brought to you by Coffee Bean Corral and Current Crop Roasting Shop. I'm Stephen Burnett with Coffee Bean Corral in Jackson, Mississippi, and with me as always is Catherine Mansell, Certified Q Grader and Director of Current Crop Roasting Shop in New Orleans, Louisiana. Catherine, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Stephen. How's Coffee Bean Corral?
It's going very well. I have spent a good bit of time checking audio equipment this go round because this is how committed we are to this podcast. We've already done this. This is a redo because we recorded an episode yesterday. It was going to go out. It was going to be great. And Josh, who's editing the audio for us, said, "Hey, Stephen, does the file on your phone have any sound in it?" And I listened, and it does not. And the funny thing was, I told Catherine, I said, "I think I talked too much in that episode." Turns out I didn't talk at all. So we're going to try this again. We're going to hopefully have some good audio that you can hear, and I will try not to talk too much, and we'll make it happen. So, man, wild times. Well, each week we set aside about 10 minutes to field questions from home coffee roasters and professionals alike about roasting, tasting, and most importantly, enjoying coffee. You can send your questions to questions@riypod.com. That's questions@riypod.com to get a nice shout out from us in an upcoming episode, and of course to get your question answered. This week's question is from Larry, who asks, "I'm just a few months into roasting and so far have just roasted single origin coffees that I have purchased from you. The results have been very pleasing. I may want to try very soon experimenting with blending coffee beans and understand that it is usually best done by roasting each variety separately before blending. My question is, how do you choose coffees for blending to mix or enhance different characteristics? Which bean characteristics are complementary in blending? Thanks, Larry." Larry, thank you very much. Catherine, what do you have to say about some blends?
It seems like blends is a really, really popular question. And when I go into thinking about blends, I think about what specifically I want in the cup of coffee. And most of the time, my perfect cup of coffee tastes like a chocolate-covered fruit bar. That's what I'm going for when I'm blending something. So I want something that's pretty fruity, and then I want something that's really chocolatey or notes of caramel in it, big body. So I'll go with maybe an African coffee, maybe like Misty Valley. And then I'll take Misty Valley and blend it with something from Bolivia that's got that heavy caramel, that chocolate, and mix it together. And hopefully the Bolivia, being a South American coffee, will bring that big body. And then the Ethiopian coffee will bring the fruit. So some sweetness, some fruitiness. So that's where I go with blending. What am I thinking about that I want specifically from that? I don't blend very often. I think I'm a little bit spoiled with the coffees that we carry. I've been drinking the new crops of all of these coffees for 6 years almost. So I have a sweet spot for each individual coffee and what they are on their own. And I think that knowing each one of them is a little bit easier because I know what they're going to taste like. So I can think of this will go good with this if I can get the percentages right. So this is something you hit on yesterday that I thought about before we did this again, that you definitely want to try each of these coffees individually before you get into blending things. And I think that's where I start. I know this coffee tastes like this. I know this coffee tastes like this. And if you mix them together and you get the correct percentages, it could be a blend of something that's fantastic.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No, and that is so good. And if you don't know the single origin, how are you going to know how they're going to blend together? You really have to understand what coffees you have at your disposal and what they bring to the table. Yeah. We definitely covered that yesterday, and well, here it is again. But yeah, no, I think you mentioned blends is a very popular question. I think we fielded several questions about blending, or this is episode 66. So, but I think probably 3 or 4 questions have been about blending, which is a lot, given that this is a pretty broad subject. But one thing I wanted to bring up is like why go into this? Why even try blending? And there's several reasons. One of the main ones is consistency over time.
Mm.
Is that you can literally when you blend coffee, if you take maybe a 3 or 4 coffee blend, you can absolutely you can repeat that year after year after year, even if some of the constituent coffees have changed. When you have multiple coffees together, the little minute flavors or the very light flavors in those coffees that are hard to taste, you really don't get those when you blend them, because the kind of loud flavors in each bean are going to overpower the kind of secondary flavor characteristics in those coffees.
Yeah.
So that means that if I have a coffee that is supposed to bring a really strong berry note into my blend, and next year's crop doesn't have that berry note, I can still replace that coffee in a blend and basically fill that gap so that the blend itself remains basically unchanged, or you can't tell that it's been changed. And that's
Right.
why a lot of coffee shops, a lot of specialty shops will use blends as like their primary espresso coffee. And that's because they can kind of get it dialed in and then just rock and roll year after year, maybe do a minor tweak, maybe sub in a new coffee, maybe change a ratio slightly.
Yeah.
All of that can be done when the new crops come in. So it's more flexible and more resistant to change over time, which is really nice especially when you take the time to learn a roast.
Yeah.
But yeah, blending. I don't know. I think that's good. I think we talked also about basically different categories. And when I blend, I always start with a 3 coffee blend. I think that's a nice. I mean, 2 coffee blend is okay. I think a 3 coffee blend gives you the complexity without being overly complex, without being too difficult to keep track of. We have some blends that have like 7 coffees in them,
Yeah.
and I'm suspicious that they're great blends.
Yeah.
But I'm like, did we need all 7 of those coffees? Could we have gotten by with 4 of them, maybe? I don't know. I'm not the blend master, so I don't get to make those calls. But I did think like. Rather, I start with 3 coffees, and that way I kind of know what each one's bringing to the table. I want one that's going to bring body, and so I want one that's like usually a Brazilian coffee. RIP Brazil with all the 50% extra costs and all that stuff. Fun times right now, but I want a Brazilian coffee for body. I want like a classic coffee, like a Colombian or Costa Rican coffee, to kind of give that classic, coffee taste. And then I want some kind of highlight, some kind of coffee that's going to be either fruity or really sweet or caramelly or something like that, that's really going to sing and make the blend really work.
Yeah.
And so that's my typical way of going about it. And so there's a couple of ways, like methods of doing this. I think one really helpful method, just go step by step here. Step 1 is roast the different coffees that you might want to blend separately. Roast them separately and roast them to a medium roast. The medium roast gives you, and you've talked about this, you taught me this, that gives you, excuse me, the a taste of what the coffee is going to be at the dark end of the spectrum, and yet you still get to taste the origin characteristic the coffee's bringing to the table. Yeah. So a medium roast straight up is a great place to start with a blend. And also, you want to keep them separate, and that way you can adjust ratios as you go. Yeah. You can take, one brew method, like maybe you need 30 grams or something, and do 10 grams of each, grind it together, brew it together, and now you know what a 33% blend of these 3 coffees would taste like. Yeah. If you realize at that point, oh, I actually wish that I had more of this vanilla flavor from this one coffee, you can do 40% of that and divide the rest by the other 2, right? You can do 50% of that and do 25 of the other 2. And just see, and you can experiment without having to roast every single time you want to try a different tweak. And that lets you dial it in. Yeah, so that's kind of my, step 1, roast them separately, get to know them. Step 2, roast them medium in that. And then step 3 is play with the ratios every time you brew until you get the right one, and then smash the repeat button. Step 4.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There you go.
And he made a point about, roasting all of them separately, and coffee bean corrals blends are made to all be roast together. And I think that if you do want to eventually roast them all together, a couple of things that worked for me recently, I had somebody wanting a South American and Central American blend, and I have never blended, or I've never roasted two coffees together at the same time. I've always done them separately. But they really wanted coffees that they could roast together. So I went through and I found the most similar elevation for both coffees and the most similar bean sizes, and tried it out, and they roasted beautifully together. If you've ever, gotten a bag of coffee that skipped all the screen sizes or going through all the screens, you definitely know that all different size beans are not all going to roast very well together. So if there's any chance that you want to try to roast these beans together, once you get everything worked out, make sure you try to get some beans that are pretty similar in size and density. Look at that elevation and see if that's pretty close together, because that worked out for me last time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that's good. Basically, blends are a lot of work, but they're a labor of love. They're a labor of love. And I think they really are worth it in certain applications. Something I mentioned yesterday, too, that I want to just hit real quick is that another thing that blending solves is if you have a coffee that's not very complex by itself. Like, it doesn't have a lot of flavor complexity. It's kind of like a one-trick pony. Okay, it's got a fruit note, and that's it. That's all it's got. Or it's got like a chocolate note, or it's got some, some sweetness, but really not much else. If you've got a coffee like that, a blend is an excellent solution for being able to make a really well-rounded cup of coffee out of some coffees that aren't well-rounded by themselves. I think that's why blending kind of got a bad rep, in that people would, blends were kind of seen as like, oh, if it was a good coffee, you would just have it single origin,
Right.
And that kind of thing, kind of a snooty kind of deal. But the truth is, there's a lot of really good coffees that just don't have the complexity. Yeah, it counts against them, but they're not bad. They just need some help. And look, we've all been there. We all need some help from some friends sometimes. And so blending is a way to do that with coffee. But yeah, I think blending is definitely well worth it. I want to say one more thing, and that is I'm an espresso guy. And some people, I see this done a lot, actually, more and more, especially in the home roasting space, is blending different roast levels of coffee, like doing a blend of different roast levels. And I have not tried this. Okay, I'll just tell you that. I'm going to put my cards on the table. I haven't tried it. I haven't tried it because I don't think it works, or it would work as well as I want it to in espresso. So here's why. If I have a light roast espresso and I grind out 15 grams, which I do a 15-30 espresso shot. I do 15 grams of coffee in the portafilter. It fills like half my basket. If I have a dark roast and I grind 15 grams of coffee, it fills to the top of my basket. It's the same weight, but the coffee itself is so much less dense at the dark roast level. So to my mind, and if I'm wrong, someone tell me, but to my mind, if we have different densities in the espresso puck, we're going to get channeling. The water is going to go through those less dense areas and strip the flavor out, as opposed to, being forced to interact with every granule of coffee, or as many as possible, throughout the shot being pulled. So if you're an espresso person, I think, uniformity of roast in a blend is really, really helpful. Now, if I am dead wrong about this, I've been wrong about stuff before. What was that article that got put out a little bit ago about re-roasting coffee? And I know.
That blew my mind. That blew my mind. Completely blew my mind.
I'm still mad about it. I'm like, I was always told you cannot do that. I've said you cannot do that. Now they're like, well, you could totally do it. And so I haven't tried it. But anyway, so if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It doesn't make sense. It makes sense to me that it would not be the best case scenario for espresso, at least. They have different roast levels of coffee.
The last thing Larry asks is which bean characteristics are complementary in blending. And for me, this question is a little bit more about preference. But I like stuff that's fruity together with stuff that's chocolatey. Something I've been playing around in my head, though, is how about something very earthy with something very herbal? Like the limu. The limu is very herbal and lime-like, and I wonder what mutu would do mixed together with that. It would take something really tobacco-like, really cedar tobacco, lime, herbal tea mixed together. That could be really interesting. It seems sort of off, but I was thinking about that last night. Would that taste good together, and how could you do things like that? But
what would be interesting, the Timor heritage has some of that kind of like earthiness, but it also has some sweetness and has that kind of graham cracker note. I wonder if that would fit in well with this. But okay, so we're inventing a blend right now. I don't know if tobacco and graham cracker go together. We're going to find out. We're going to find out.
Yeah.
Because that's what we do. We do it so you don't have to find out the hard way that it's not great. But maybe it's wonderful. Maybe it's wonderful.
But
so
Larry, I think that's
awesome.
really just about presence.
All right. Well, Catherine, I'm pretty sure that we left some stuff out. Pretty sure we did. But you know what? That's okay. That's okay, because that's where you guys come in. Y'all come in to answer these questions and to fill in the gaps of our knowledge, the gaps that exist just from your own personal experience. So yeah, go in the comments, answer questions, offer your blend recipe. What do you like to do? I did have a gentleman call me the other day and ask for, he said, I've got a blend recipe for my favorite roaster. And he just named off five different origins. And, helpful, but we're kind of guessing at processing style and things like that. And so, if you have a recipe for your favorite blend, throw it in there. It's, hopefully it's very good and we can share that around. We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it, which you don't, because we made it twice. That's how much we enjoyed it. And you're only going to listen to it once, probably. So we made it twice. But if you did, please leave us a rating and review on whatever platform you found us on. We're excited to watch the Roast It Yourself podcast grow and reach more and more people. We can't do that without you. Be sure to like and follow our social media accounts for Coffee Bean Corral and Current Crop, and of course the Roast It Yourself podcast on Instagram. I think we have Facebook for the other two, so definitely check us out there. Follow us. You'll see like the deals we post and things like that.
Yeah.
We also could not do this without the people that handle our audio, video, graphical work, the podcast, to make us look and sound good, and if we sound at all. So I'm going to say thank you and a big shout out, just because now they're having to work a little bit extra and a little bit on a short notice because of my microphone error.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys so much for what you do to make us look and sound good. We couldn't do it without you. Remember, listener, to send any question you have about coffee in general or coffee roasting in particular to questions@riypod.com. Otherwise, have a great day and happy roasting.
Thanks, Larry.